Everyone went to my sister's wedding in Hawaii without me. No invite, no text, just beach pics on Instagram. When I asked why, Mom said, "We thought you couldn't afford it." I didn't react. I just said, "You're right." Then I went quiet for a year. Built a business, bought the same resort they stayed at, and booked it for my own private event. Guess who didn't get an invite this time? The world went quiet for 3 days after my sister's wedding. Not a single call, text, or invite. Then I opened Instagram, and a single photo, my entire family, smiling, barefoot on a beach in Oahu, hit me like a physical blow, changing everything I thought I knew about us. That sunny, perfect image, everyone in coordinated outfits, tossing flower petals into the ocean, all happy smiles. My sister, Olivia, radiant. Her new husband, Daniel, practically glowing. The caption read, "The most magical day of our lives. Welcome to the family, Daniel." I stared so long my phone screen actually dimmed, my own reflection looking back like a ghost. That photo was just the first. They flooded in, over the next few hours, videos of the ceremony, poolside selfies, sunset dinners, drunken karaoke. My mom, Sarah, had even worn her hair in the old updo I told her she looked best in. The whole event looked like something out of a luxury destination wedding catalog. And I, Ethan, 29, the youngest sibling by a decent stretch, wasn't even a blip in it. I didn't cry. Not right away. I just froze. You know that feeling, right? When your brain just scrambles, trying to make sense of something completely out of bounds. I started spinning excuses. Maybe it was super last minute. Maybe they thought I couldn't get time off. Maybe the invite got lost. Maybe. But then the captions started pouring in. Best week ever with the people we love most. Couldn't have asked for a more perfect group. And then the one that finally broke me, from Olivia herself. Every single person who mattered to us was there. That's when the tears came. Not dramatic sobs, just slow, angry drops that felt like they were burning paths down my face. I wasn't even mad, not yet. I was just hollow. Like someone had taken an eraser to me, completely wiped me out of my own family story. The next day, I called my mom, Sarah. She picked up, chipper, like she was just expecting a compliment on a photo. "Ethan. Hey, sweetie. Did you see the photos? Wasn't Olivia radiant?" I didn't waste a second. Why wasn't I invited? There was this long, dead pause. The kind where you wonder if the call dropped. Then, "Oh, honey, we just assumed you wouldn't be able to afford it." Just like that. No apology, no hesitation. Like she was commenting on the weather. My pulse throbbed in my ears. "You assumed." Well, yeah. I mean, you've been so busy with your little startup thing, and with Oahu being so expensive, we didn't want to pressure you. We figured you'd understand. I said, my voice quiet. I would have figured it out. You never even asked. She let out a breath, a dramatic sigh, like I was the difficult one. It was all moving so fast. Olivia didn't want to wait, and it was mostly just family anyway. Close friends, aunts, uncles, you know. I swallowed hard. I am family. That silence again. Then, in that sickeningly sweet voice you use for a toddler mid-tantrum, "Ethan, don't take it personally. You're always so sensitive." That was the moment. Something inside me snapped. Not a loud, explosive break, but a quiet, surgical one. Like a switch just flipped. I didn't scream. I didn't cry again. I just nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "You're right," I said. She hesitated. "Right about what?" "I couldn't afford it." And then I hung up. That was the last time I spoke to them for over a year. Here's the thing, my mom, Sarah, wasn't entirely wrong. At the time, I genuinely couldn't afford a trip to Oahu. Not even close. I'd poured every single cent I had into a small tech consulting business I'd started 2 years earlier. It was barely breaking even. Some months I had to choose between rent and marketing software. But it was my baby, and I believed in it. My family? They never really took it seriously. To them, if it wasn't a 9 to 5 with benefits, it wasn't a real job. They still thought I was doing IT support, like right out of college. But that call, that moment, that switch flipping, it lit a fire under me I didn't know I had. I stopped waiting for their approval. Stopped trying to explain myself. I didn't post on social media. Didn't send holiday texts. When my birthday came a few months later and no one reached out, not even a generic happy birthday on social media, I knew they'd completely written me off. And weirdly, that gave me power. Because while they were sipping piña coladas and posting reels of underwater snorkeling, I was grinding. I took every client. Taught myself to automate half the business. Pulled 14-hour days, sleeping on my office floor sometimes. Lived off canned soup and black coffee. I built a team. Hired smart, fired smarter. Little by little, the numbers started to turn. We landed a big contract with a hotel chain. Then a travel app. Then a resort management group with a portfolio in, ironically, Oahu. By the 1-year anniversary of Olivia's wedding, my company was netting more in a month than I'd made in the entire previous year. But I didn't call Sarah. Didn't tell my siblings. Didn't post about my success. I just watched, from a distance, as their lives went on without me. Baby announcements, new cars, Sunday brunches. I wasn't tagged in anything anymore. It was like I'd been quietly erased. But they had no idea what was coming. A few months later, a property came up for acquisition. A resort. Mid-sized, oceanfront, recently remodeled. The exact one they'd stayed at for the wedding. Thanks to my new partnerships and the insane leverage I'd built, I had a chance to make a move that would change everything. That's when the idea hit me. It started as a joke, really. A petty daydream during a late-night spreadsheet session. But the more I thought about it, the more it consumed me. I didn't want revenge in the explosive, dramatic sense. I wanted silence. Elegance. I wanted them to feel what I felt. Like they were on the outside of something they should have been part of. So, I booked the resort. Every room. Every bungalow. Every event space. I told the staff it was for a private event. No press, no social media, just exclusivity. I planned the guest list meticulously, friends who'd supported me, mentors who'd believed in me, colleagues who'd stuck by me when I was broke and invisible. Not one family member made the cut. As the final confirmations rolled in, I sat in the same chair I'd been in a year ago, staring at my phone. Only this time, I wasn't crying. I was smiling. Then something happened I didn't expect. My sister called for the first time in a year. Olivia. I didn't pick up. Her name glowed on the screen like a ghost from a past life. No contact photo anymore, not since I deleted it. Just her name, sitting there like a test I hadn't studied for. She called again. Then once more the following week. No voicemails, no texts. Just quiet calls that rang out, one after another, like the universe was nudging me. I told myself not to care. It was nothing. Probably just some passive-aggressive guilt check-in. I let it ring. The silence felt good. It felt earned. But then, 3 weeks before the private event, something slipped. I was on my laptop, reviewing logistics, when an email popped up. Subject: Hey little brother. From a name I hadn't seen in over a year. It was Olivia. I didn't open it right away. I hovered. Closed my laptop. Poured some water. Paste. Then opened it. Hey, Ethan. So, I know this is long overdue. I've been thinking about reaching out, but honestly, I didn't know what to say. Things got weird after the wedding, and I didn't want to make it worse. I know you probably feel hurt. I would too, but I just want you to know it wasn't personal. We thought you'd say no. Mom said you were super busy and didn't have the money for a trip like that, and you didn't really seem that close to Daniel, so we figured you wouldn't care as much. Anyway, I heard through the grapevine you're doing really well. That's amazing, Ethan. I'm proud of you, I mean it. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. Love, Olivia. It wasn't personal. That phrase made something snap in my chest. Every dismissal I'd swallowed my whole life had been waiting for that exact sentence to bubble back up. I wanted to believe she meant well. But all I could hear was the voice that told me not to be dramatic when I cried after she read my college essay aloud like a stand-up routine. The voice that asked, "Do you ever get tired of making things about you?" Still, I didn't respond. Instead, I pulled up my calendar. 3 weeks. That's how long until the event. Until I'd walk through the doors of their resort, the one they celebrated at without me, and watch the sunset with people who chose to be in my life. Not because of shared blood, but because I mattered to them. And then, because the universe has a twisted sense of humor, Sarah called. This time I answered. Ethan, she said, like we'd just spoken yesterday. I've been meaning to call you. I said nothing. So she hesitated, clearly not expecting the wall of silence. Olivia told me she reached out. That's good, right? You two need to reconnect. I know things got messy. Messy? I repeated, tasting the word. Is that what you're calling it? Oh, honey. Come on. It was a wedding. People make mistakes. We didn't think you'd be upset forever. I wasn't upset, I said. I was erased. She let out a sharp, little laugh, like I was being dramatic again. Don't be ridiculous. You know we love you. Love me enough to post about how everyone who mattered was there? There was silence. A longer one. That was Olivia's caption, she said carefully. You stood right next to her. In every photo. You didn't say anything. More silence. I could almost hear her, rearranging her excuses like a Rolodex, flipping through options. You know, she finally said, this attitude is exactly why we didn't want to pressure you into coming. That was it. That was the moment I realized she didn't see me. Had never really seen me. To her, I was still the sensitive kid who cried too easily, asked too many questions, the weird little brother who liked books more than football and always took things too personally. I'm not upset anymore, I said, flatly. I just don't care. Then I hung up. That same night, I sent out the formal invites for my private event. Every envelope sealed with a gold stamp. Every name carefully selected. The guest list was intimate. 30 people. The ones who stood by me when I had nothing. A few clients who became friends. My first mentor from college. The landlord who gave me a break when I was 2 months behind. People who never made me feel like a footnote. And just for the poetic symmetry of it all, I sent one last envelope. No invitation inside. Just a photo. Me, standing in front of the resort, smiling with a glass of champagne, the ocean in the background. On the back, I wrote 5 words, guess who can afford it now? I sent it to Sarah's address. Didn't expect a reply. But a few days later, it came. An email this time. No subject line, no greeting. That was cruel, Ethan. I don't know what you think you're proving, but it's not classy. Families forgive each other. You've made your point. Let it go. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just about the wedding. It was never just about the wedding. It was about a lifetime of being the afterthought. Like the time I got into an elite summer program, and they all skipped my celebration dinner because Olivia had a new boyfriend to introduce. Or when I broke my collarbone playing rec league soccer and Sarah said, well, that's what happens when you try to be something you're not. Or every single Christmas, where I got the last gift unwrapped, the leftover attention. I didn't hate them for it. Not anymore. Hate is too heavy. But I didn't forgive them either. 2 days before my event, my brother, Ryan, who hadn't called me in 2 years, texted, Yo, man, heard about the big celebration. That's wild. Mind if I come by for a bit? No explanation, no apology, just a casual, last-minute drop-in, like we were college buddies. I didn't answer. The next day, I got a DM from my cousin Chloe. Is this the same resort we stayed at for the wedding? LOL. That's hilarious. Looks so pretty. You there now? That's when I realized something was leaking. Someone I'd invited had shared a post. One photo, a sneak peek of the setup. A white canopy on the beach, elegant table settings. By that night, 5 more messages. All from relatives who hadn't spoken to me in over a year. Suddenly, I was the hot ticket. Suddenly, everyone remembered I existed. Even Daniel, the guy who married into the family and never said more than "What's up" at Thanksgiving, sent me a LinkedIn message. Hey, Ethan. Olivia mentioned you're throwing some kind of event in Oahu. That's amazing, bro. We'll actually be on the island that weekend. Would love to catch up if you're around. That was the final straw. Not because he messaged me, but because he used the word bro. We were never brothers. And that's when it hit me. They didn't want me. They wanted proximity to success. To money. To whatever this glow-up version of me was now. But none of them wanted the version of me who slept on his office floor and ate $8 ramen for months, while they posted engagement photos and drank cocktails at swim-up bars. The day of the event came faster than I expected. I flew in 2 days early. The resort staff were incredible, discreet, professional. They understood the assignment. The property was flawless. The flowers, the lights, the music. It was like something out of a movie. The night before, I stood alone on the balcony of my suite, watching the waves crash softly. And for the first time in a long time, I let myself feel the weight of it all. Not the revenge, not the victory. Just the quiet ache of what I'd lost. Because despite everything, a small part of me had wanted them to notice. To apologize. To say, we messed up, Ethan. We should have been there. But they never did. They just wanted back in now that it looked fun again. The next morning, as the first guests arrived, the front desk called. "There's a woman here," the concierge said. "She says she's your mother." I froze. "She's not on the guest list," they added. "But she says it's important." I felt a dozen emotions. Anger. Confusion. Something dangerously close to hope. "Is she alone?" I asked. A pause. "She's with 2 other people, a man and a woman." "Of course. Olivia and Daniel. They were here. They came. But not for me. They came to crash something I built with every ounce of pain they'd left me to carry alone." I took a breath. My heart pounded. "Tell them," I said slowly, "this event is for family." Then I hung up. But I hadn't seen the last of them. 3 hours later, they tried something I never expected. They didn't take the hint. Deep down, I think I always knew no had never meant much to people like them. People used to being let in, getting their way. Sarah had been steamrolling boundaries since I was old enough to speak. Olivia turned passive aggression into an art form by middle school. And Daniel? Well, Daniel just did whatever Olivia told him, which made him arguably the most dangerous of the 3. I'd imagine them slinking back to their rental car embarrassed. Maybe booking an early flight, blaming me while waiting for overpriced airport food. But of course not. Because when the event began, when the sun dipped low and the music came on and the laughter swelled across the beach lawn like the tide, my uninvited guests showed up again. Only this time, they were wearing makeup and sunglasses. They didn't try the front entrance. No, they went around. Walked the perimeter. Probably scoped it out earlier. I was near the pool bar, talking to Brenda, a retired engineer who took a chance on me when I was pitching prototypes out of a Starbucks. I spotted a figure ducking between palm trees near the property line. I stopped mid-sentence. Brenda noticed. "You okay?" I nodded, turning away slightly, pretending to look for someone, but I saw it. Olivia's blonde hair unmistakable even under a wide-brimmed hat. She was walking quickly, glancing side to side like she was in some amateur heist movie. Daniel followed, holding what looked like a gift bag. I kid you not, a gift bag. And behind him was my mother, Sarah, wearing white. To my event. I blinked, like I was hallucinating. My jaw actually dropped. I'd read stories about people crashing parties, showing up in white to be petty, but I never thought I'd see it happen in real time. I wasn't angry. I was done. I handed my drink to Brenda and walked toward the concierge. "Hey," I said, voice even. "We may have a breach of the perimeter." He blinked. "A breach?" I pointed to the group. "None of them are guests. Please escort them off the property." He stiffened. "Absolutely, sir." Within minutes, 2 resort staff, radio connected, walked calmly toward the invaders. I watched from a distance as they were intercepted. Olivia tried to act surprised. Daniel looked lost. Sarah folded her arms like she was the victim. I saw them arguing. Heard words float across the breeze. Family miscommunication. Invitation must have been lost. They were grasping. Eventually, they were walked off property. Not forcibly, but firmly. That should have been the end of it. But the real fall didn't come that day. It came the next. Because while I was still glowing from the high of the event, still standing on that pedestal of sweet, silent revenge, I woke up to a different kind of notification. A social media post from my mother, Sarah. "I don't normally air family matters online, but I'm heartbroken today. After everything I've done for my children, being excluded from such an important event has shattered me. I raised my son to be kind, generous, and thoughtful. I never imagined he'd become someone who thinks success is more important than family. If you're reading this, please remember the way you treat your parents says everything about who you are. The comments were filled with sympathy. Sending hugs, Sarah. You're such a good mom. He'll come around. Kids these days have no gratitude. Only 1 or 2 people question the narrative, but they were drowned out. And that's when I felt it. The crash after the high. The weight of the spotlight being flipped back on me. Only this time, not as the overlooked brother, but as the villain. And it didn't stop there. Olivia posted next. A carousel of wedding photos. Yes, again. With a caption dripping in condescension. I wasn't going to say anything, but I guess we're sharing now. My brother chose to cut out his entire family for reasons none of us understand. I reached out. I apologized. I tried, but I guess money changes people. I didn't respond. Not online, not privately. But I read everything. Every tag. Every passive-aggressive story post. I watched as relatives I hadn't seen since childhood joined the pity parade. Old family friends shared it like a public statement, and my name got dragged in a way I never prepared for. For the first time in a long time, I felt small again. I thought I'd healed. Thought the event, the resort, the moment, that it would erase the years of being overlooked, misunderstood, uninvited. But standing in the aftermath of my own celebration, I realized something. You can't win a war you don't admit you're fighting. Because I wasn't just trying to make a point. I was still trying to be seen. Still chasing the validation I never got at 10 years old when Sarah left my science fair early to pick up Olivia's dress fitting. Still trying to earn a spot at a table that was never set for me. The internet can be cruel. It feeds on emotion. It distorts facts into drama. And within a few days, some of my clients saw the posts. A few reached out awkwardly. One pulled out of a deal, said they didn't want to get involved in family issues. It stung. The event that was supposed to crown my comeback had quietly cost me. I wasn't canceled or anything dramatic. But the shine dimmed. The story shifted. I became the guy who booked a whole resort just to snub his own mother. And for the first time since I'd hung up that phone a year ago, I started to doubt myself. Had I gone too far? Had I lost sight of what I wanted? I stopped posting, paused all interviews, took a step back from the business. My team was capable. They kept things moving. But I was adrift. Some nights I couldn't sleep. I'd sit on the edge of my bed, staring at the floor, wondering if I'd let revenge turn me into the very person I swore I wasn't. It felt like rock bottom. Not the dramatic fall from grace kind, but the quiet kind. The kind where you realize success means nothing if you're still carrying old wounds. But then something changed. It started small. A handwritten letter arrived at my office from Brenda, the woman I'd spoken to at the event. The one who'd invested in me when all I had was a pitch deck and a dream. Ethan, I don't know what's going on with your family, and frankly, it's none of my business, but I do know this. That event was filled with joy, generosity, and integrity. Everyone there was there for the right reasons. You brought good people together. You honored the ones who lifted you up. That matters more than online noise. Don't let anyone rewrite your story. You know who you are. Brenda. I read it 3 times. And then I cried. Not because I was sad, but because for the first time in weeks, I felt anchored. Like someone saw the version of me I was trying so hard to protect. The version that wasn't vindictive or cruel. Just tired. Just trying to heal in the only way I knew how. That letter pulled me out. I got back to work, but not in the hustle, grind, scale at all costs way I had before. I slowed down. Started doing office hours again, free consulting for startups. Met founders who reminded me of me, wide-eyed, scared, scrappy. I shared my mistakes. Helped people without expecting anything in return. And weirdly, that healed me more than any party ever could. I restructured the company. Gave my team more equity. Hired a head of people. Started a mentorship program. I stopped caring about headlines and started caring about legacy. And something incredible happened. The narrative changed. Not because I forced it, but because I lived differently. People saw. Clients came back. Some even apologized. And one day, quietly, without drama, Olivia deleted her post. Then Sarah's disappeared too. No explanations, no messages. Just gone. But I didn't reach out. Because by then, I didn't need to anymore. I wasn't climbing a ladder to their approval. I was building a life without their weight on my shoulders. Then, about 6 months after the event, as I was preparing to speak at a small tech summit in San Francisco, I got a call from a number I hadn't seen in over a decade. Aunt Evelyn. The only relative who hadn't posted anything during the social media firestorm. I hesitated, then picked up. Her voice was warm, unchanged. "Ethan," she said, "I know I might be overstepping, but there's something you should probably know." I sat down slowly, and what she said next made my stomach drop. Because the betrayal that started with a wedding wasn't the only one. And the thing she told me, it rewrote everything I thought I understood about my family. I hadn't spoken to Aunt Evelyn in years. She was the quiet one. The one who didn't pick sides, didn't raise her voice, didn't insert herself unless absolutely necessary. When my parents fought, she'd be making sure the kids were in another room with snacks. She was Olivia's godmother, Sarah's younger sister, and had lived 2 states away most of my life. In family photos, she was always in the back, smiling, never spotlighted. And yet, somehow, it was her voice that finally cracked the surface of something I hadn't even realized was still buried. "Ethan," she said again, gently. "Are you sitting down?" "I am now." There was a pause. She breathed in, like she wasn't sure whether to keep going. "I should have told you this a long time ago," she said. "But I didn't want to cause drama. And, honestly, I wasn't sure if you even wanted to hear it. But after everything that's happened, I just can't keep it to myself anymore." My chest tightened. "What is it?" "It's about your inheritance," she said. I blinked. "My what?" "From Grandpa Arthur. Your mom and Olivia told everyone he didn't leave you anything. That he thought you were too young and irresponsible with money. But that's not true, Ethan. That's not true at all." I stood up so fast I nearly knocked over the chair. "I was at the reading of the will," Evelyn continued, her voice slow, careful. "Your mom didn't want me there, but I insisted. I'd helped take care of Arthur in his final months. He was clear about what he wanted. He left each of you grandkids something. He set aside $100,000 each, for you, Olivia, and Ryan. And he left the remaining assets, his house, the stocks, the vintage car collection, to be divided evenly between his children, your mom, Uncle Mark, and me." "Okay," I said, still trying to catch up. "But later that year," she continued, "your mom told everyone you refused the money, that you thought it was blood money or something. She said you'd gotten into some crypto thing and didn't need it. She even claimed you signed a form to waive the inheritance." My mouth went dry. "I asked her to show me the document," Evelyn said. She got angry. Said I was accusing her of lying. After that, I didn't push again. I regret that now. My mind was spinning. Why would she? Why would they lie about that? "I think it's because Olivia was struggling financially at the time," Evelyn said. "And your mom?" "Well, you know how she's always tried to keep up appearances. I wouldn't be surprised if they redirected your share to help pay for Olivia's grad school or maybe Daniel's business loans. Who knows?" I sat down again, slowly this time. "I didn't have proof," Evelyn said. "But I always suspected something wasn't right. And then when I saw what they posted after your event, the guilt-tripping, the gaslighting, I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I didn't speak. Couldn't. I was too busy replaying the last decade of my life through a new filter. All those years I struggled. Working 2 jobs out of college, sleeping on couches, skipping meals to keep the lights on. All those humiliating family dinners where they made jokes about me being the broke genius, while Olivia and Ryan were praised for their stable paths. And all along, I wasn't broke. I'd been robbed by my own family." I managed to whisper, "Thank you for telling me." There was another pause. Then she said something that changed everything. "I have a copy of the will." I stood up again. "It's in my storage," she said. "I made a copy the day of the reading, just in case. I can overnight it to you. And if you ever decide to do something about it, I'll back you up." I don't know how long I sat there after we hung up. Time stopped making sense. My mind raced through memories like a Rolodex on fire. The forgotten birthdays, the silent treatment, the social media captions that said everything without saying my name. I'd spent a year building myself up after they cut me out. I thought I'd moved on. But this wasn't emotional neglect. This was theft. And now, for the first time, I had leverage. The will arrived 2 days later. Certified mail. Inside was a yellowing envelope, stamped with the estate lawyer's firm, a notarized copy of Arthur's final wishes, and a post-it note from Aunt Evelyn. You don't owe them kindness. I read the will 4 times. There it was, in plain black ink. To my grandson, Ethan, I leave $100,000 to be held in trust until his 20th birthday. No caveats. No disclaimers. Nothing about rejection. And I had never seen that money. Not a single cent. I spent the rest of the day pulling old bank statements, digging through email archives, even contacting the estate lawyer's office. The firm had since merged, but the senior paralegal still had access to digital records. After verifying my identity, she confirmed it. The funds were dispersed. Per signed authorization, Ethan's portion was redirected into a family account for administrative distribution as permitted by his assigned trustee at the time, his legal guardian, Sarah. My mother. She was my trustee when I was 25. And she'd stolen $100,000 from me. Suddenly, everything came into sharp focus. The casual way she dismissed me. The assumption I couldn't afford Oahu. The tight smiles whenever I brought up money at family gatherings. Olivia's always updated wardrobe. Daniel's magically expanding startup despite having no revenue. They didn't forget about me. They cashed me in. And now I had the receipts. But I didn't want to just call them out. That would be too easy. I wanted to do this right. With elegance. With proof. With silence so loud they'd hear it echo for years. And that meant planning. First, I called a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. A bulldog. A white-collar fraud specialist who used to work in federal prosecution before starting her own practice. Her name was Sophia Ramirez, and she didn't play games. After laying out everything I had, she sat back and said, "Ethan, this isn't just inheritance fraud. It's fiduciary misconduct. Your mother was a trustee. She had a legal obligation to act in your best interest. Redirecting that money without your knowledge or consent is a violation of state and federal trust laws." My heart pounded. So what does that mean? It means, she said with a smile, you have options. She outlined a strategy that was brutal in its precision. Civil litigation. File a suit for the full amount plus damages. Mediation demand. Before trial, offer to settle privately, but with terms that would sting far more than money. Public pressure. If they resisted, leak the story to financial justice blogs. Use the documentation, the paper trail, the notarized will. Let the court of public opinion speak. And if they get nasty? I asked. Sophia grinned. We get nastier. You're not a kid anymore, Ethan. And they messed with the wrong adult. But legal action wasn't my only play. I started contacting others who'd been burned or manipulated by them. Quiet conversations with cousins, family friends, even an old neighbor who once lent Olivia a large sum for wedding prep and never got repaid. I wasn't assembling a mob. I was building a network of witnesses, of stories, of people who were ready to speak when the time came. And then I did something that surprised even me. I booked a table at Olivia's favorite brunch spot, the trendy rooftop cafe she posted about every other week. And invited her. Not to fight. Not to scream. But to watch her lie to my face. And when she did, I'd know exactly how far she'd go. The day of the brunch, she arrived 10 minutes late, wearing oversized sunglasses and a blazer 2 sizes too tight. "Ethan," she said, voice sugar-coated. "I wasn't sure you'd show." I smiled. I'm full of surprises lately. We made small talk. Ordered overpriced lattes. She asked if I was seeing anyone in that nosy way where she was really asking how stable I was. Then casually, I dropped the hammer. "I've been thinking about Grandpa Arthur lately," I said. She froze, just slightly. "Oh yeah," I said, stirring my drink. "Funny thing, I recently saw a copy of his will." She blinked. "You did?" "It said he left me $100,000. Isn't that wild?" She smiled nervously. "Huh? That doesn't sound right." "Mom said," I know what Mom said. I cut in, voice still calm. But she lied. Her lips parted, but no words came. I leaned in just slightly. Here's what's going to happen, Olivia. I'm going to give Mom a chance to make this right. One chance. And if she doesn't? Well, I have a very good lawyer and a very public platform. You wouldn't, she whispered. Try me. She reached for her water, hands trembling. Ethan, it was Mom's call. I didn't. You benefited from it. Silence. I stood up, tossed a 20 on the table. You always told me I was too sensitive, I said. Turns out I was just paying attention. As I walked out, I didn't look back. Because this time, I didn't need to see her face to know she cracked. This was no longer about proving my worth. It was about reclaiming what was mine. And by the time I was finished, they'd understand exactly what that meant. I gave my mother, Sarah, 7 days. 7 days to come clean, to acknowledge what she'd done, to return what was mine. No theatrics, no grand speeches. Just an email. I kept it short. Subject: the trust. Mom, I know everything. I have a copy of Grandpa Arthur's will, the estate documents, and records showing you redirected my inheritance without my knowledge or consent. You were my legal trustee when I turned 25, which makes this a clear breach of fiduciary duty. I am offering you the opportunity to resolve this quietly and privately. You have 7 days to return the full $100,000 plus a written admission of what you did and who else was involved. If you refuse, I will pursue legal action and make the matter public. Consider this your only chance. Ethan. She didn't respond. Not after 1 day. Not after 2. Not after 5. Not even after I got a read receipt on day 6. I knew she saw it. She just didn't believe I'd follow through. In her mind, I was still that soft, sensitive boy who cried too easily and forgave too quickly. She didn't know the man I'd become. On the morning of the 8th day, my lawyer, Sophia, filed the suit. The paperwork was flawless. Every document, every signature, every violation clearly outlined. We filed for full restitution, punitive damages, and fraud. And just as Sophia promised, we also sent a press tip to a mid-sized financial blog that covered estate fraud and family betrayal stories. It wasn't a huge outlet, but it had a loyal readership and just enough social media traction to matter. The blog ran the story within a week. Tech founder alleges inheritance fraud by family with documents to prove it. The headline wasn't bombastic. It didn't name names, but it linked to court records. It mentioned a prominent wedding in Oahu and a recent private resort event that had stirred social media speculation. Within 48 hours, the story had been shared over 20,000 times. It was on Twitter, LinkedIn, Reddit. The comments were ruthless. Imagine stealing from your own kid. Mom of the Year /us. This is why I keep my family out of my finances. He booked the same resort they used for the wedding? That's the level of petty I aspire to. I watched silently as the tide shifted. And then the phone started ringing. Olivia called first. I ignored it. Then Daniel. Then Ryan. Then Sarah. She left a voicemail this time. Ethan, I don't even know what to say. This is humiliating. You didn't have to do it this way. You didn't have to go nuclear. We could have talked. Please call me back. I didn't. Because talking was always on their terms. Now it was on mine. Sophia received their response through an attorney representing both Olivia and Sarah. They tried to argue the funds had been redirected with good intent and that I had benefited indirectly through family expenses. Sophia smiled when she read that. Good. Let them say that in court. But just before the first mediation hearing, something unexpected happened. A whistleblower came forward. Turns out my mother hadn't just stolen my inheritance. She had a pattern. The neighbor I spoke with, the one who said Olivia borrowed money years ago, had documents proving the loan was orchestrated through my mom. A $20,000 transfer labeled bridal support, never repaid. Another cousin, Natalie, reached out after seeing the article. She was 19 when Grandpa Arthur passed and always believed she wasn't included in the will because of bad grades and being too immature, as my mother once told her. When I showed her the will, her name wasn't on it. But Natalie's father, my Uncle Mark, had left her a private trust. When Natalie confronted my mom, she got silence. When she hired a lawyer, she found out that trust was also redirected during probate. My mother had her fingerprints all over the paperwork. It was a pattern. Control, manipulation, erasure. And now it was unraveling. Within 2 months, the civil case against my mother and Olivia had expanded. Sophia worked like a machine, coordinating witness statements, securing depositions, compiling a mountain of evidence so thick it broke 3 manila folders in her office. And while the legal case churned, the court of public opinion did its part too. Sarah, who once posted Sunday gratitude updates and motivational quotes about motherhood, went dark on social media. Her Facebook page vanished. Olivia's Instagram, once a polished grid of curated perfection, was wiped clean of comments. Daniel deactivated entirely. The fallout reached further than I expected. Apparently, Daniel's startup had been banking on a round of angel funding that quietly disappeared after the blog post made rounds. 2 investors backed out. One firm emailed them directly, stating they couldn't move forward with a brand associated with unresolved legal allegations. Meanwhile, my company? We surged. The attention, though unplanned, had brought visibility to our consulting platform, and small businesses flooded in, resonating with the story of a founder who pulled himself up after family betrayal. But revenge isn't about business growth or social media karma. It's about the moment they finally see you. And that moment came during the mediation hearing. We met in a glass-walled conference room in a downtown high-rise. My mother sat on one side, flanked by Olivia and 2 tight-lipped attorneys. I sat opposite them with Sophia and my financial advisor. There were no cameras, no crowd. Just fluorescent lighting and a pitcher of water nobody touched. The mediator, a calm woman in her 60s, opened with protocol, asked if we were willing to find a peaceful and confidential resolution. I said yes. So did my mother. But then she looked at me, and for the first time in years, her mask cracked. I never meant to hurt you, she said, voice quiet. You were always so sensitive, Ethan. I didn't think you'd understand what the family needed. Sophia spoke before I could. What the family needed was not your legal right to decide. My mother tried to speak again, but I raised a hand gently. You always thought I was soft, I said, looking her in the eye. But I wasn't. I was hopeful. I believed you would choose me just once. And every time you didn't, I blamed myself. I thought I wasn't worth the effort. Olivia looked away. Daniel didn't show. I continued. But now I know I was just inconvenient. Someone who didn't fit the image you were trying to present. So you cut me out of the wedding. You cut me out of the will. And when I succeeded without you, you tried to crash my life like it was a party you were entitled to. I took a breath. I don't need an apology. I don't need closure. I need accountability. You stole from me. And you used that money to elevate the daughter you actually cared about. So, here's the offer. I slid the paper across the table. Sophia explained it. Full repayment of the $100,000 plus $50,000 in damages. A written, public acknowledgement of wrongdoing. No excuses, no spin. And a signed, notarized document severing all financial claims or obligations between us. No more manipulations. No more guilt. No more calls. Just clean separation. They tried to negotiate. Sophia shut it down. And after another week of silence, they accepted. The funds arrived in escrow. The statement was posted online on an unassuming blog, signed by Sarah and Olivia. No apology. Just a confirmation that a financial oversight had been resolved. But I didn't care about the wording. I cared that it was over. It's been a year since that day. I haven't spoken to them since. They send cards on my birthday now. I don't open them. I pass them to my assistant, who files them in a drawer marked Personal Archive. It's full of envelopes with handwriting I don't recognize anymore. I bought a house overlooking the ocean. Quiet, private, filled with light and books and friends who show up without needing to be asked. I still talk to Aunt Evelyn once a week. Sometimes Natalie joins. She's doing great, by the way, studying to become a paralegal. And me? I'm still building. Still healing. But lighter now. No more chasing invitations that were never meant for me. No more proving myself to people who never saw me to begin with. Just the freedom to live fully and unashamed. And sometimes, when I walk past the mirror, I catch a glimpse of that kid who used to wonder if he'd ever be enough. I smile at him and I say, we made it. What would you have done if you discovered your own family stole from you?